Welcome to this week's episode of Eye on the Tigers. I'm Delaney Barrow, joined by Andy Hewling. And this was going to be a very exciting weekend in Auburn sports, as initially there were supposed to be two different sporting events this weekend for the first time in several months. Along with the Deep South's oldest rivalry in football, the soccer team was supposed to travel to Baton Rouge to face the LSU Tigers on Saturday. However, this morning, we just learned that the match has been postponed due to a positive COVID case on Auburn's team, along with several mandatory quarantines by other student athletes. Andy, how do you think this second week in a row of a postponed match is going to affect the rest of the Tigers season?
Well, it is going to have an effect on the Tigers as they have now not played for 2 straight weeks. Last week getting canceled with Texas A&M because they had positive cases, and now LSU has 1 positive case on their team. So it's going to really affect how they play. I mean, obviously, next week, hopefully they're able to get back in action. But having 2 weeks off is going to be different, especially having 1 match under their belt and now going 2 weeks without playing. So I think Auburn will have to just stay focused and stay sharp and ready to play hopefully next Friday.
I think the major difference between this week and last week's postponement is that this week it actually is a case on the Auburn team, and last week it was on Texas A&M's team. So I think that plays a huge role because last week they were still able to practice as normal, maybe got a few extra practices in since they didn't have to travel. But this week, because the case does affect Auburn's team itself, there's going to be more players out. Maybe the whole team won't be able to practice. It all just depends on those guidelines outlined by the SEC's medical task force. So I think that after playing Mississippi State and ending that first match in a tie, they saw what they needed to work on initially, and there was some rust because it was the first match of the season, but Coach Hoppa expressed the high expectations she has for the team as a whole, especially the freshmen and freshman goalkeeper Maddie Prohaska. So I know that they were really looking to capitalize on some mistakes made in week 1, week 2, and then this week they were looking to capitalize, and now that's going to be pushed back until their next match, which will be at the Auburn Soccer Complex against Ole Miss on October 11th. But on to football. This Saturday will be the Deep South's oldest rivalry. Auburn will travel to Athens to face the Georgia Bulldogs. And Andy, based on what you saw last week's performances on both teams, how do you think this weekend's going to play out?
Well, I think both teams are coming in still looking to fill in the offensive holes that were left after last week. I think Auburn was really slow in the running game and really did well in the passing game with Bo Nix throwing over 200 yards and 3 touchdowns. But for Georgia, they were also not able to really get things going on the run. But Stetson Bennett came in for them and was able to pass for 2 touchdowns and over 200 yards as well through the air. So I think both teams kind of figured things out in week 1, but I think there's still a lot of holes and a lot of things that they can improve on to make sure that they're game ready for this one, because it's a top 10 matchup. It's going to be whoever shows up will take the victory, and I think Auburn and Georgia are really needing this one in hopes of the college football playoff and SEC championship implications.
This is a big top 10 matchup. Number 7 Auburn at number 4 Georgia. And last week, Georgia really just lacked an offensive foundation. I mean, Mathis started out, played pretty poorly, got pulled, and third stringer Stetson Bennett went in, and now transfer JT Daniels has been cleared, but Coach Smart has been pretty tight-lipped about what's going on in Georgia's quarterback room. So they really don't have a foundation or haven't found their groove yet. And they kind of just collapsed last weekend against Arkansas, and their defense did come to play, and ultimately I think that's what got them the victory. But on Auburn's side of the ball, I think that offensively the passing game looked really good. Bo Nix has shaken off a lot of rust, and he no longer looks like that freshman rookie he did last year. He made some great plays. He has a strong receiving core, and like you mentioned, the running back game, it was there, not very powerful, not very effective against Kentucky, but I mean, in a press conference earlier this week, Sean Shivers was talking about how the running game can only go up from here, and they know what they need to capitalize on and how they can improve from last week's performance. But I think another notable thing to notice about this game is just that it's so early in the season, and I think that the players, they are really enjoying the high-stakes competition of the SEC-only schedule, and they're just excited to play UGA. They don't care that it's in the beginning of the year. Several of them expressed that they were willing to play them postseason, preseason, literally any time, and they're just excited for the matchup, and I think that that is really adding to the level of competition this week?
It don't matter. We could play on week 1, week 9. It don't matter. Long, I mean, they're on the schedule. They put their pants on just like we do. I mean, it just make the game more exciting. And I mean, this game it's just more exciting. Making the seasons are more exciting because usually when we we have the regular schedule, you probably little easy teams, and so when you have to jump off playing teams like Kentucky and Georgia, it kind of gets you do good, kind of give you instant credibility. So I look forward to games like this.
Honestly, I like it. I like getting in that fire. I think it's for us, for especially as an older player, I think it's better. But I think those little one to three FCS games, I think they help with to just get acclimated to the season. But personally, I love competition. I love playing against the best of the best. And if it was up to me, we play a 10-game SEC schedule every year. Honestly, I just want to play the best of the best, and I know the SEC has the best of the best.
Clearly, the players are very excited for this matchup, even though it is very early in the season, and especially after last year's game where Auburn lost. They went scoreless in the first 3 quarters, came back, almost won, but lost 21-14. They're really coming in with a chip on their shoulder, especially because so many of the players are from Georgia. They're just really looking forward to this tough competition.
Last year we played them late in the season. I don't think they'd given up a rushing touchdown the whole year, and we had one on a quarterback run, and they got just about everybody back. So you're looking at not just one of the best rushing defense, if not the best rushing defense in the country, but one of the best overall defenses. And after last year, I felt like that they were the best defense we played all year after playing them, and they got the majority of the guys back. They make you earn it, and that's the key. They make you earn it. They mix things up. They check when you check, and they're a very sound unit.
Well, we coming back with a chip on our shoulder because, of course, we lost to them last year, and we just motivated than ever, to play, Georgia good football team, so we got to come in and play. So we just motivated about that because we know they're going to come and play, so we know that we got to come and play on our end too.
Andy, what do you think the keys to winning this game are going to be?
I think Auburn's defense ultimately has to come to play. Whoever Georgia puts out at quarterback, he's going to have to come up against still a strong Auburn defensive line and secondary. And I think if it's JT Daniels, I think Auburn kind of plays into favor with that, of the defense, because this would be his first start, especially coming off an injury. I think could really hamper their chances. But if they do start Stetson Bennett, still it's going to be a tough matchup for him. He's going to really have to step up if he were to start against the Auburn Tigers. But I think ultimately Auburn's defense has to come to play. They have to stop the run. They have to create pressure in the passing game. And then Auburn's offense obviously still has to come through as well, because we've seen many of times on the road where Auburn's offense just can't produce enough points, whereas the defense is keeping them in the game. So Auburn's offense is going to have to really come through when it matters, and Bo Nix is going to have to make plays like he did in the 4th quarter of last week.
I think it's going to be Bo Nix or nothing. If the passing game isn't clicking, there's no way Auburn can walk away with this win. I think that the running game, it does have potential. They know what they need to work on, but against Georgia's defense, I think that they're really going to have to rely on how Nix plays, how his receivers cooperate, and Auburn's defense is also going to play a huge role, and they're just going to have to capitalize on the lack of foundation in Georgia's offense and their consistency, and just the fact that they don't really have their routine yet. And in previous seasons, Georgia usually starts out pretty hot, but they kind of decline throughout the season. So by the end, they aren't really the same team that they started out. But this year, they didn't really have that great of a start. So I think it'll be an interesting matchup, especially because it is away at Sanford Stadium. The last time Auburn won there was 2005. And actually, Auburn leads the series at home, 18-15, or at Athens, 18-15 against the Bulldogs. So it'll be interesting if they can add to that tally. Andy, who's your player to watch this week?
My player to watch this week is Shaun Shivers. He's got to step up for the Tigers in the running game. I know that they're working on it. They've got a lot of guys that can carry the load for them, but he's the main guy, and especially after last year's performances, he's coming into the season with a chip on his shoulder. He wants to get better. He's talked about how he's improved his game, and he showed signs last week that he's really, I think he's gotten more physical, really. I think he's able to carry the load. He's able to get more more yards after contact. So I think he's going to be the key to this game for Auburn in the running game.
My player to watch is Big Cat Bryant. I think Auburn's defense is really going to need to play and just take advantage of Georgia's weaknesses. And especially looking at Big Cat, he was initially committed to Georgia and on signing day switched to Auburn. So this game means a lot more to him. In the press conference this week, he was talking about how his family and friends would kind of rub it in his face when Georgia won against Auburn, and he's really going to be looking to turn the tables and just capitalize. He was injured last weekend and didn't play at all the first half, got one tackle in the second, so he's still going to be shaking off some rust, but I think because this game means so much to him, there's going to be a whole new level of competition, whole new level of attitude, and it's going to be a fiery match. But the game can be seen on ESPN at 6:30 Central. Now on to our Pick'em segment. Our first college matchup of the week is Oklahoma versus Iowa State. Andy, who do you have?
I like Oklahoma in this one. I know they lost last week in a shocker to Kansas State at home, but I like the Sooners in this game because I think they'll bounce back. They've got a really good quarterback, Rattler. I think he plays really well. He's really poised in the pocket, and I think they can get the job done in Ames, Iowa, which is a really difficult place to play.
I'm going to have to go with Iowa State on this one. I think that they're really going to be looking to expose Oklahoma and give them that second loss in their streak. And their quarterback passing game still looking to build that chemistry, but Breece Hall has shown some big playability, and I think that their offense is balanced enough to where Oklahoma's defense kind of collapsed against Kansas State, and I just really think that Iowa State is going to be looking to compete again in that Big 12 title. Next matchup is Navy versus Air Force.
I like Navy in this game. This is a huge rivalry game. I know Air Force kind of brings more of a dynamic to their triple option, but I just like Navy, how they pound the ball up the middle constantly, and then they'll hit you with the pass on third down. I really like how the midshipmen play, so I'm going to go with Navy in this one.
I'm going to have to go with Air Force. It is their home opener, but I think that they do have several returning starters to the offensive line who had very powerful seasons last year, and they ended their season with a win in the Cheez-It Bowl against Washington State, so they're still going to be riding high after that. And also in this series at home, the home team has won the last 7 matchups, so I'm going to have to go with Air Force on this one. Next college football matchup is Texas A&M versus Alabama. Who do you have?
No question here, Alabama wins. I think Texas A&M showed everyone last week that although they're ranked up in the top 15, they really aren't deserving of that title. I think A&M just was very poor on offense. They fumbled quite a few times and even almost let Vanderbilt beat them. The final was 17-12. But Alabama just looks consistent. They've got Mac Jones. They've got Najee Harris. They've got Jalen Waddle. They've got too many playmakers on the defensive side as well. I think they'll roll in Tuscaloosa.
I have to agree. I think Alabama is going to get a clear victory with this one. Last weekend, Kelly Mond didn't play great. The team overall didn't really prove that they deserved that number 13 ranking, but I do think how close the Aggies will be able to hang with the Tide depends on Mond's performance, and I don't doubt that Texas A&M's defense is going to be able to make some big plays, but I do think that Alabama has too many weapons and they're just going to pull away in the second half. For our final college football matchup, we have Auburn versus Georgia. Who do you have?
Well, this is a really tough matchup. I think it can go either way, but I favor Auburn in this game specifically because of the defense and because of Georgia's offensive troubles. I know both teams kind of figured it out, like I said earlier, in the second half of the game, but I think Auburn has more playmakers on the offensive side of the ball, especially the wide receiver core and Bo Nix being the quarterback. I think he's going to make plays. He's going to get it to his receivers, and I think the running game is going to step up this week. So I think Auburn will come out victorious, but it will be a close one.
I do agree. I think it will be a close game, and I also think that Auburn will walk away with this win. I think on top of the offensive side of things, they do have strong receiving core. The running back game is sure to improve, but defensively, Kevin Steele is really doing things for the team and the line, and I think that the defense is also going to come to play. And overall, I think that Auburn has shown that they are a balanced team with so much potential to improve throughout the season, and I think they're going to beat the Bulldogs. Now on to the NFL. First up, we have Colts versus Bears.
I like the Colts in this game. I think the Bears were lucky to get out of in Atlanta against the Falcons. And although they're undefeated and they've got a great defense, I do like the Colts in this game to upset the Bears.
I agree. I think the Colts are going to win this. I really don't think that the Bears should be undefeated still. I mean, when Nick Foles has a bad game, he has a bad game. And I think that the Colts have a hot defense and they're an up-and-coming team, and I do think that they're going to beat the Bears and hand them their first loss. Next up, we have Chargers versus Bucks.
I like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think Tom Brady's really gotten into a groove as of late. Had a really good game last week against Carolina. I think the Buccaneers are looking to be one of the better teams in the NFC East, or the NFC South, excuse me. And I think that they'll get the win in this one.
I have to agree. I think the Bucks will win this. They have a young defense, but it is steadily progressing. I think that their offense is still trying to click, but with Brady and all the weapons, I think that they are going to beat the Chargers, and I think it's going to be a pretty not close game. Next up, we have the Bills versus the Raiders.
I like the Bills in this game. I think a lot of people sleep on them, the way they play. It seems kind of a different style of offense compared to how the Raiders play. They like to go with passing, all-out offense. But I like the Bills in this one because Josh Allen makes plays. He gets it to his receivers, and they have a really good run game. So I'm going to take the Bills in this one.
I'm going to have to go with the Raiders. While Josh Allen has been proving himself as an up-and-coming player, I think that Derek Carr is going to lead the Raiders to victory, and he does struggle a little bit with his aggressiveness, but I think that because they haven't been pressuring the quarterback as much, I think he's going to be able to have a successful game. And on top of that, I think that it's just they coming off of a hot win against the Saints, and they're going to be riding high on that momentum, so I'm going to have to go with the Raiders on this. For our final NFL matchup, we have the reigning Super Bowl champions and the potentially fallen dynasty, Chiefs versus Patriots.
This is going to be a really good game. I think a lot of points will be scored. I have to go with Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. I just think the way he's playing right now, especially after that game against Baltimore, the way they went in there, the way they took care of business, I just think it shows a lot about the Chiefs and who they are. So I think Mahomes will get it done against the Patriots.
I'm going to have to go with the Patriots. I think that they've shown that they're not a fallen dynasty. They are still here to play. They are still improving. They still have Edelman, Burkhead, Sony Michel, Cam Newton. Cam Newton always comes to play, especially in the big games. He shows up, and I think that he's going to rise to this occasion. And even though it is at Arrowhead, I think it's going to be a close game. It probably will be a shootout, but it's going to be a great game to watch. But I think the Patriots are going to walk away with the win. That's all that we have time for you today. If you want to see any more sports or local news, please head to our website at eagleeyeauburn.com. Have a great weekend, and War Eagle.